Hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. Each week, I try to find something unique and fun to talk about. This week is no exception. I actually found somebody that founded a couple of things at once, and we're going to unpack that. And the cool part is that this really has to do with some philanthropic things as well as some business. And we try as hard as we can to make that connection between personal growth and business growth. And so we're definitely going to unpack both of those today. I'm hanging out with Keith Murley. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Friday, I have my cup of coffee, so we're ready to go.
Coffee, it's the afternoon, so you're an afternoon coffee drinker,
Endless
huh?
night, put me to sleep. Yeah.
Wow. Well, hopefully our stimulating conversation will that and the caffeine will keep you going here for a little bit. So
Oh, yeah.
you actually are CEO of a company called MAAPPEN, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So
That's-
tell us what is that? What is that and what's going on over there?
It's a strategic technology consulting company, and really the best way to describe it, it's really that perfect balance that we found of leadership and strategy and execution. In the IT outsourcing space, we tend to find a lot of companies who are either exclusively on the leadership side or very much on execution. And we found this really great niche of providing a balance of both. And really, that came from my years of being on the inside working for private companies and seeing that when you're working for a private company, as a leader, you really need to find that balance of helping projects move along, helping initiatives move along, while letting your team develop their activities and whatnot. So that's
Gotcha.
what we're doing here at MAAPPEN.
Awesome. Well, I tell you, when I hear the word technology, I'm just going to tell you right up front for you, Keith, and anyone listening, I am technologically challenged to the max. Okay. So if you unpack stuff today, I'm just asking you for me because I learn at about a sixth grade education, and I got the button here that can mute you. Okay, so if you start talking about stuff that's way over my head, you're going to be muted. So help me specifically when we're talking technology, because the technology for dummies. You look that up in the dictionary, and there's my picture. Okay.
Well,
So
I took my pocket protector out for this interview.
there you go. Good.
That was
Technology guy with a sense of humor. All right. We already are doing good. So thank you for sharing that. So the leadership, I wrote down leadership, strategy, and execution. Are those the three words that you mentioned?
yes.
So execution is obviously pretty simple for a lot of people. It's what you do. The strategy tends to be what you're going to do, right? This is how we're going to do it. Then the execution of it. Help me understand the leadership piece, because I think, like you said, that's a little bit unique. So if I'm a typical business owner and I'm looking for somebody to help me on my technology side, I'm a layman, so I'm thinking you're going to tell me the strategy and then you're going to execute it, which totally makes sense. So Keith, tell me, where does the leadership piece come in, and what does that look like, and how is that different from other companies that are doing this?
Well, what's interesting is a lot of companies, a lot of small businesses were faced with the void in leadership when the COVID pandemic hit.
Okay.
When all of a sudden they're tasked with a major shift in their operations, trying to figure out how to go remote. And what they started identifying is this lack of leadership and strategy, which turned into we need to execute on a lot of things very quickly, which by not having that leadership, they're getting to the point now where they're really starting to feel the pain points of sudden execution, sudden business change, and they're trying to find the right resource to put a stop to some of the hemorrhaging and get some of that focus and some of that direction, as opposed to implementing new things or executing new things to deal with some of the challenges that have arisen here. And we're seeing a huge surge in IT leadership job postings and hires, and companies understand that without that tech leader who speaks business and who speaks jargon, without that, you're really left to your best guess.
Gotcha. So you're straddling that. You're trying to do both, where you're in the IT world, so to speak, but you're also in the leadership side so that you're able to create a message that people like me would be able to understand.
Absolutely. And we're
Okay.
working with other consulting firms who are handling the day-to-day stuff, handling the network monitoring and end user support to make sure that those services are in line with the business. And when there's opportunities to improve, we can help provide some of that direction. And it's really taking the same model that you would have if your IT department was internal to your company, looking how they're doing, gathering feedback from users of technology,
Okay.
and making adjustments, gathering feedback. And really, the main purpose nowadays is technology has to work for users. Back in the day, users were straddled to the sysadmin, the network engineer. He said what program he supported, that's what you used. And
Sure.
now that paradigm shift of, I'm a user, I don't care to know about the wizardry of technology.
Right.
I need this to do that. So
Sure.
get your tools out,
Sure.
see what we need to do to make it happen, and let's do that.
Gotcha. So, and I think I look at it from a different perspective because I don't even know what it can do. So, I mean, if I look at my remote control for my whatever, for my TV, and all the stuff there, and I look at the thing and it's got all these buttons. I have no clue what they do, right? I mean, they all do something. Otherwise, unless maybe they're just taking up space and equaling out the other buttons, but they probably do something. And I have no clue what they do. Again, being technologically challenged, my goal is on, off, up, down on the sound, and channel changing. And I think record. That's like the extent of what I know, right? So I'm just curious from that perspective. So if I'm understanding, you're also helping people with things that I mean, they have this technology, they don't even know what it can do. So, and does that understanding the company help you then? I'm assuming to be able to meld that into the real world.
Absolutely. And for most of my career, I was, as I mentioned before, working for private companies. So I was one of the team members,
Okay.
and you get so much contextual information and feeling by being a part of the company itself.
Sure.
Once I made the transition to the consulting realm, I can still picture all of those internal meetings and team discussions and fires that were going on, and bringing that to the position that I'm in now, that when we're looking at solutions or we're looking at vendors, it really comes back to having an understanding of what really makes a difference to the company, to the business. And it's a great analogy that you gave about the remote. Is I can show off this universal remote that has 16,000 buttons and they're all colored and all that type of stuff, and I give it
Right.
to you, and it's then up to you to make it work for however you want, as
Sure.
opposed to me being in your seat. I understand what I want a remote to do.
Yep.
And by having a really deep knowledge on the business side and the tech side, I can make the remote very simple, very intuitive, get rid of things that you don't need. And you see on the hardware side, a great example of that is Apple, where their primary focus is to make their products and their solutions so simple but powerful at the same time, so you
Sure.
can really get this benefit. And
Right.
we see that on the software side as well, where if you're a software vendor just selling the solution to a company, it becomes a monumental task to figure out, how do we make improvements using this software
Sure.
versus on that leadership side, giving real scenarios of challenges businesses have and showing how the software or hardware, whichever direction it goes,
Sure.
creating that match and showing this is the challenge, this is how it's going to solve it. There's no wizardry. And the reason this software is good is because it allows you to accomplish all of this, and it allows you to customize it based on your unique environment. And more importantly, you can grow with it by these features. And without having experience in the industry like that, it's very hard to speak in their terms of what they can do, and really coaching them as to how to move forward.
Sure. Okay. So you mentioned something, and I want to kind of transition into that. You were in corporate America, and then you transitioned into owning your own business.
Right.
So we love to unpack that on this show because there's a lot of people that listen that they're really envious of what you did. They don't know how to do it, or they may know how, but they're scared to death to try it. So you were in corporate America, and do you remember, like, the transition? Was it like something like you woke up one day and go, oh my gosh, I got to do this on my own? Or was it more of a gradual process? Help us understand, that journey that you went on.
I think growing up and coming up on the corporate America side, it was it was exciting being a part of growing companies and companies in different industries and who really supported growth. So I saw in my position there, you picture almost like a runway, and I'm hurtling down the runway in terms of what I'm able to learn and develop and all these type of things. And I start realizing that I have such a passion to keep going and keep going, but I'm reaching the end of the runway of what I can of what I can
Oh,
of
gotta
what I
lift that airplane up quick,
can.
huh?
Right. So
Wow.
so it's it was that point in my career that I knew that this was not the time to cruise yet and coast. And luckily I had managers and bosses who were ambitious and driven themselves. And when they identified that in people and saw that, yeah, really the way to continue growing is either moving into another position if there's no other position to move into, and you're really passionate about taking the skill that you have and growing it, then absolutely, by all means, you're going to contribute to the world by doing that. And
Sure.
so it was really me seeing that I wanted to keep growing on the technology side. I wanted to keep growing on the business side. And there was a need that couldn't be met where I was currently at. And I have that mindset of you can't settle, or hope is not a strategy. You can't just hope that one day you're going to come in and they're going to have a whole new variety of challenges, or they're going to make up a position for you.
Yeah.
It's great, but it just doesn't happen that way.
Sure. Yeah, hope is not, I say that all the time. Hope is not a sales strategy. I hope they call me back. I hope they buy something from me, right?
Right,
Not a
right.
good thing. I think you brought something up that I think I want to make sure we point out is, good leaders really help their team develop. I mean, I know that there's plenty of people listening, and there's plenty of people in corporate America. They got a great person on their team, and they're like, oh my gosh, how can I keep them? Push them down, keep them humble, keep them, just keep them in that spot. And you can try that if you want. I mean, I've been in leadership most of my life, and I realized that, the best way that I can help another person is encourage them to be who they were created to be. They maybe weren't created to be on my team. I mean, if you would have had a leader trying to push you down, Keith, that would really be a challenge for you, right? But you said you had leaders that were encouraging around you to do
Yeah.
this. So Was it a gradual process, or did you just like, was it an abrupt, I hit the end of the runway and I realized that I had to go do something else?
I would say it was abrupt in the sense of once I saw that end of the runway coming, I didn't go into planning phase of over the next year or two, I'm going to map out a strategy. I'm going to come up with my company direction. I knew already in the back of my mind that at some point having my own business would make logical sense.
Sure.
And when I
Excuse
started
me.
approaching that, it was really saying, okay, we're doing this. There's no plan B. We're doing this. And we're going to give as much notice as we can. And I was able to give ample notice and having that flexibility to not have to dive into a new venture.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was it, it was really you got to jump in and and I made sure before I went down that path is I had a lot of one-on-one consultations with myself on
Okay.
strategy and talking to people who were genuinely encouraging and not highlighting the terror of moving on to another position or
Sure.
starting your own thing.
Yep.
They saw it as, wow, this is an adventure. And the adventure could be full of leopards and jaguars and things that'll kill you, or it
Mhm.
could be this magical land, but
Sure.
it's exciting.
That's
And
awesome.
and I feel that it's very important if people start thinking that way, and I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, is don't share it with people who have no business knowing about it.
Yeah.
People who have been they've run aground many years ago and they're not in the position to look at what you're doing constructively and say, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're at such a vulnerable spot early in your career. And it was interesting because the same exact thing happened to me. So I had my own company for 20 some years. I had a business partner. We grew it to about 10 million in annual sales. And then I sold my shares to my partner. And it was a Tuesday afternoon. I tell the story all the time. It was Tuesday afternoon, and the deal's done, and we're at the Perkins restaurant of all places. And he said, "So what are you going to do?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's like Tuesday at 2 o'clock. What am I going to do?" Right? I mean, I just sold my interest in my company. I'd been there 28 years. And so I just had I had some idea, but I didn't know for sure what it was going to look like. And so he says to me, the first thing he says is, "I'd like to hire you, and be your first client." I knew it was going to be positive polarity. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I said, "You know what? I got to pass on this because I don't want my first customer to be somebody that's not going to listen to me, that's going to challenge me." So, on one hand, we want to take whatever business we can day one. Let's put it out there, right? Day one, you open up and you put your shingle out or whatever, you get yourself on LinkedIn. It's not like 8:02 the phone rings and they go, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to start working with you." And then 8:04 rings again, right? I mean, there ain't nobody looking for you. You got to go looking for them. Um, but the interesting thing was, to your point, is you got to really surround yourself with people that have your best interest in mind. Whether it's a peer group, whether it's a accountability partner, whether it's a coach, I don't care what it is, but it's got to be somebody that's going to help you, because you're going to be, especially if you've never done it before. I mean, there's blind spots you don't know you have. There's taxes you don't know you're supposed to pay. I mean, there's everything, and so I appreciate that, Keith, that you did that. So move that forward. So you knew what you wanted to do. What was like for you once you knew that? Did you just start calling people? Did you just start knocking on doors? Because that's usually what I think people struggle with the most is, okay, I have this idea, I really think it's going to work. I saved up some money in my corporate days, so I got a little bit of money to work with. So ready, go. And it's
Right.
like, okay, now what? So do you remember that now what phase for you?
Yeah. Yeah. The now what, going onto the LinkedIn side and reaching out to people who I'd known. And one of the best pieces of advice I got from one of my more recent employers was networking was the key to his success. And the company that he grew was staggering, very well controlled, a lot of attention to detail and process. But
Hmm.
he always told me, the CEO of that company always told me that if he had to attribute the single most factor to his success, it was networking, connecting with people.
Sure.
So one of the first things that I did on that first day that I hung my sign out there was starting to reach out to contacts that I had
Sure.
made over the years, just letting them know what I was looking to do, getting some informal advice about the services that I'm going to be offering, thoughts that they had in terms of how things go for them, and just I made it a point to just talk to people, and not in a salesy type of way, reaching
Yep.
out to everyone saying, "Hey, by the way, I do this."
Yep.
Because to your point, I wanted to attract the right clients, and I wanted to make sure that the processes internally were developed enough to support people. And I think if too many of my connections pitied me and just gave me business just to keep me off the ramen, then I wouldn't have grown as much. And just getting their feedback and not being on the island by yourself, where yes, you have your own company and it's just you, but it brought this sense of normalcy back where I'm reaching out, just talking to people. And yeah, I even had on my calendar, and I do it to this day, is I have pre-scheduled retreats where I have a certain amount of, it could be online podcasts or online videos from different business leaders, essentially forming this summit of creativity,
Sure.
and really treating it as I would if I was putting on an event myself.
Yeah.
And
That's
I,
awesome. Well,
and I
hey,
think when you live it makes it that much more real.
yeah, absolutely. For you listening, nothing wrong with pity sales, even though Keith said it's not the best, right? I mean, I remember starting out, I was like, I'll do anything, right? I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'll do it. So, there's no right or wrong to this. And that's the cool part about it is, Keith started it one way. I probably did a little bit different. We just are here to offer you as suggestions and ideas and just to be able to expand your mind just a tad to be
Yeah.
able to realize that maybe there's a different way to do this. Again, you have this fantastic idea, and it's like, what do I do with that idea? And
Well,
how do I turn it into something?
well,
We don't all have the ability to jump on Shark Tank. So go ahead.
well, and I think that that's a great point. Is you can't be married to exactly how you're going to do it, or even the exact services or exact pricing,
Right.
because as soon as it doesn't work, if you're committed at that level to the only way it's going to happen is this way,
Yep.
you'll just get so crushed and overwhelmed that you did this business, and it's not going as I thought, versus being flexible on how, even how you talk to prospective clients, if it's
Right.
email, if it's phone, if it's postcards, and just being fluid. And I think what's helped me is just having more of that goal on the technology side. Is I want to have a business that helps people use technology, and that
Right.
gives me a lot of bandwidth on how do I approach that.
Sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yep, for sure. That's funny. So then as we transition, as if that wasn't enough in your life, starting a business, leaving corporate America, leaving that safety net, leaving that comfort. I mean, let's just be real. There's some comfort, there's some safety in that. And I know that there's certain days, I mean, I'm sure it's just me, but there's certain days I don't want to work, right? And in corporate America, you could kind of skate, you could take a little semi half day off, in your mind, and just, skate through that day. I wouldn't recommend it on a regular basis, but let's be real, it happened at times. You skate too much as a business owner, and you know what? You fall, the ice melts because there's no money left. So, it's definitely business ownership. Being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. There are plenty of people listening that this is tugging at their heart. They're like, man, I want to do this. So I appreciate you sharing your journey. Somehow, though, you didn't think that was enough, and you had to actually found the Center for Good. So tell me what that is. I mean, I wrote down global community spreading goodness. Well, that's a mouthful. So,
Yeah.
so how did the business, you have business, and then you jumped into some philanthropic things. So first of all, tell me what the Center for Good actually is.
It you did nail it, that it's this global community that we're building, and it's really tied back to supporting each other, supporting each other's personal experiences. So what do you have going on in life? Could be hobbies, it could be new training or schooling that you're getting into, certifications. And then on the business side, supporting those activities, whether it's progressing through your existing corporate role or you're planning on going off to another venture. And really it was a combination of a lot of things, including how I was raised, starting my business. And it struck me like lightning one day, where there's so many pockets of organizations and associations and groups doing positive things for groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find a therapist, you can find a executive speaking coach, you can find training facilities or hobbies, but there was this commonality missing, where is there a group that helps support at a much larger level and helps put you in touch and connect you with people internally, but also businesses that have a similar mindset as you. So if you're going through these transitions, there's a lot of people out there that don't have that quote unquote support group to go to.
Okay.
And I decided that there's really a good chance to create this opening for people to participate in something much bigger. And I feel on the support side, if you have support in your personal life, and genuine support, people that are really looking out for you, that you can bounce stuff off of,
Sure.
they can challenge you, who can celebrate your wins, it does so much to you. And we see the inverse with social media and Facebook and stuff like that, is if I post this picture that I thought was hilarious to me, and I'm checking my notifications because I know at any moment everyone's just going to start liking and haha and resharing.
Yeah.
3 days later, it has 1 like.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking that, was it that funny? Was it not? I know humor. You start questioning all these things inside, as opposed to maybe there's something else going on in this
Sure.
in this social network. And the same thing on career development, having a good starting point. And again, building this as a resource is not the end all be all. It's not that if you want to progress in your career, you have to be here.
Sure.
But it's just that point of support and connection and growth that is available at any time in your life. And I've seen, even from a cultural standpoint, living in South America when I was a kid, and that absolutely transformed my life. Living in a culture, not knowing their language, learning it, going to public school, and when you're inserted into a culture, a complete different mindset at that level, it broadens your appreciation that not everyone is like you. Not everyone is focused on the same things that you are. And there's fantastic things that we can learn from people in other countries. And the reason for the center using technology like we're using today is being able to give people connection to countries and places that they would have never dreamed of visiting virtually, and maybe down the road be able to actually form these friendships and travel over there and
Sure.
just talk. Yeah.
Well, so I'm glad it's not called the Center for Bad. So that's a, that's a
I was
really,
already taken.
yeah, oh God, you know that. That was already taken. Yeah. So we had to go with our other second alternative. I mean, just the word good when you think about it. I mean, you can look at it from good or bad, like a black or white, like, oh my gosh, you better be good, like a Santa Claus thing. Or you can look at it like good, like something's actually good, which that's how I took it. So,
Right.
it's who doesn't need a good influence in their life? Who doesn't need to find a group of good people, right? I mean, I don't want to overuse the word, but I appreciate that global community piece. And so what was the thought process? So again, you're cruising along in life, entrepreneur, starting this other business, and what caused you, what was that intersection? Describe that for us if you would, because there are probably people that are listening that maybe aren't fulfilled in corporate America. Maybe they're not even fulfilled in their business that they own, and they feel like they either need to give back or they need to, get involved in something from a philanthropic standpoint. So, what was that intersection like for you?
Well, I think it was the transition of how I was raised to becoming an adult, going off on a different path. And there's certain things that you lose when you choose a different path in life. And I've always just been very introspective and thinking about things and thinking about feelings and why things are a certain way. And I remember many times good things would happen, or I'd have an exciting idea,
Hmm.
and I I wouldn't have anyone to tell. There was no one that I really wanted to reach out to and tell them, because it was going to either be a false positive, or it was just going to be this downer approach. And for me, I had to get creative on building something where you can go. And this has been in my mind for years. And I think
Okay.
it was just it was actually during the process when I was building MAAPPEN, and I was doing something on the service side, or maybe some marketing materials or whatever it was. And it just reminded me of how blessed I am now, having my wife, having good friends and good connections to be able to share these things with. But I
Sure.
remember a point in my life where that wasn't the case.
Okay.
And right in that moment, it was a Saturday, and I decided that that very day I'm going to start working on this,
Mm,
because it's been kicking around my head for a while, just this obscure idea. And I
sure.
said, starting today, I'm actually going to start putting it on paper, start creating the structure, because this needs to happen. And it was really at the beginning part of the pandemic as well, where people aren't connecting with each other, and it's just
Sure. Yeah.
polarized out there what's going on in the world. And I knew that there's enough good people out there. There's enough people that want to do better, that want to uh, be involved in something bigger than themselves,
Sure.
have some larger goals, some larger hope. Which
Wow. That's so cool. And so, I think there's such an encouragement right there for anyone listening that has that. There was a point, in this case for Keith, where he even knew it was a Saturday. I mean, there's just a kind of a point where you put you put your sword in the ground and you're like, you know what, that's it. I'm done. Whatever that means, good or bad. There's a spot where you might have something going in your brain. And to Keith's point, it was for years going around in his brain. And this is why we do these types of podcasts, and this is why there's such a big growth in podcasting, because people want to help other people. We don't get paid to do this, and not interested in getting paid to do it, as much as trying to understand how to improve myself. Keith's trying to find ways to improve himself. And it's so cool if you're listening and you have that aha moment, that then this whole thing was worth it. It was worth investing the time and energy to unpack this with Keith, because that could change the world. The Center for Good can change the world. Now, if there's a Center for Good baseball team and you play the Center for Bad baseball team, let me know, because I hope you guys stomp them, right? No offense if you belong to the Center for Bad, but it's just one of those things that, again, I think good is kind of universal, like a smile, universal like a wave. There's just some things that everybody kind of understands.
And the other reason why I picked the Center for Good instead of the Center of Good is because good is also sometimes going through the bad. It's making poor decisions, but understanding that your strategy is really to get to a certain place,
right?
And acknowledging that, yeah, we're gonna mess up, we're gonna make some bad choices, but if we're really in this for a larger purpose, we have that connection, we have that support to get our head where we need to be, and
Sure.
That's been invaluable for me.
That's great. So one of the questions that I had is you're talking about this support and you're talking about these relationships. I'm always curious how people, how they, how do you develop a long-term relationship? What's something that you found successful, whether in your networking or in your Center for Good? I know how it is for me. Different people have different perspectives. So I would really appreciate your perspective on that, Keith.
Yeah, one of the telltale signs of a good relationship is when there's that desire to both listen and participate.
Okay.
So actively listening, and the longer you spend with someone, if you start taking notice that most of the time they're doing the talking, or as soon as you're talking, you see their expectation of when to jump in, or when to pivot the conversation into, we've all heard somebody interject saying, oh, that what you're talking about, that happened to me at one point, and then they just go on and on, as opposed to coming back.
The one-upsman.
Right.
You broke one leg. Oh my gosh, Keith, I broke two legs, and then I had to walk uphill to school yet, right?
Right, exactly. I still managed to graduate the top of my class.
Exactly. Yep. Doing casts, but hey, I did it,
Right. Right. Oh, let's getting back to your story. Actually, I have to run now. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you say something? I wasn't really listening, Keith.
Right. And I think it's always beneficial when somebody approaches you with that curiosity, with that desire to connect with you and understand and learn. And I've seen that on the business side. I feel the most successful salespeople in approaching me have been wanting to learn about MAAPPEN, learn about what we do, learn about our customers before even presenting me with a product to look at.
Right.
Because if you just try to sell me on a product, it's how do you know what we're going to use? And I've taken that in developing connections to make sure that there's that equal energy of let's listen to each other, let's have a conversation, and there's no ulterior motives.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, a successful partner, if you look at the word partnership, so many companies use it, so many people use it, so many people want to be part of a partnership. But the vast majority of people really never understand, in my opinion, what the true meaning is. And when you look at the true definition, a partnership is taking part in the successes and in the failures. I mean, that's a true partnership. Everyone loves the parade. Everyone loves to take advantage of, met sales quota for the month. Yes, I mean, then I had something to do with that. But when, the sales guy doesn't meet his quota, or the sales girl doesn't meet her quota, then it's all them. I mean, right? It's all, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. You know what? It's so easy to, kind of deflect anything on me. So I really appreciate that when you're talking about a business relationship and trying to create one. You know what? It's got to be two-sided. It's got to be where you're listening, you're participating, you're looking out for people. They're looking out for you. I appreciate that. That's so cool. So
And
is
that's
that
what I
kind? Oh, go ahead.
and that's what I've seen even on the technology side, the solution side. The best companies that we have that partnership with are when something inadvertently comes up with a client project or a certain challenge or a certain unknown that we come into.
Sure.
The vendors and the software providers out there that are those true partnerships, they're the ones to sit down with us on the phone and say, okay, this was an unforeseen circumstance. We're going to put some skin in the game to also help rectify this. And there's other companies, as with any industry, that they're a partner as long as you're selling their service.
Right.
And once
Yep.
there's an issue, it's like, well, you need to sort that out with
Yep.
your client. All of a sudden it's your client.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so painful. Yeah. I remember meeting a large manufacturer, one of the probably the largest in their sector. And it was in the billions. And we were talking about this exact thing. And, they were all on board with wanting to partner more with their clients until we unpacked what the true meaning was. If I do something wrong, I mean, so I have a Jeep, okay, and we take the doors off, we take the roof off. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic in the summer for the 9 days that we get summer here in Wisconsin. It's awesome. Well, I tell you what, you buy little things for the Jeep, and I tell you, when you buy something and you break it, they are so fast to resell you another one, and it's like, not that I'm expecting them to like bail me out, but isn't that kind of like, there's this little thing, and maybe it's just me. I would love nothing more than somebody to say, oh my gosh, sir, this happens all the time. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take care of that. We're going to send you whatever that is. To me, that's what a partnership really entails, because they love it when I do good. They love seeing the money come in. And when I mess up, then it's like, did you read the directions? Whatever it is, they have a tendency to really, and again, I get it. It's not Jeep. I'm not saying Jeep's bad. They're awesome. It's not even them. It's an aftermarket company. It could be your coffee maker. It could be your vacuum, whoever you do business with, right?
Yeah, I mean, with some of those, I mean, I've been on both sides, and some of them feel like this deposition where,
yeah, right. Yeah.
I
Oh my
need,
gosh. Yep. What's your blood type, Keith? Yeah, right.
They make you feel that you had to have done something so bad
Right.
that they can't even conceive that it would break or something would happen. And then I remember I had an experience with my Keurig machine, started having these weird issues, and I decided I didn't expect anything from them because they sell a bunch of coffee things.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I'll just call their support and let them know what's going on. And they were so apologetic and just handled it so quickly that the very next day I had a new unit there. The whole process was streamlined, and it could have been the person I was dealing with over there that just had that genuine passion for, we love our product.
Sure.
You're having issues with it. We're going to take care of it. And
Yep.
Yeah.
We must have the same Keurig situation, because ours goes, I don't drink coffee, my wife does, and I drink the tea side, but it fills halfway, stops, it fills a little more. I mean, sometimes it turns off. So again, make a call to Keurig. They're like, oh my gosh, we are so sorry. And let us send out a new one for you. It's just like, wow, and they're like, you don't need to send, because that's the other thing, right? Send the other one back. And then once we get it, we'll inspect it. If it falls within our warranty, it's like, whoa.
The original receipt.
Oh yeah, original box. Oh, you're missing one piece of packing. Forget it. Sorry, that's null and void. I mean, and I don't have a clue how we got into this other than talking about business relationships, but I'm so passionate about customer experience because I wrote a book about it, but it's also we're consumers. So we can totally identify with this like we just did. We
Yeah.
gave major kudos to, Keurig. And if you're out there and you're thinking about not buying a Keurig, just
Right.
think twice. I don't make any money on this. You probably don't either. But
Yeah.
it's like, man, we want a partner that I make a call and boom, you know what? They take care of it.
Yeah.
And if I drop the thing, then you know what? That's on me. Okay, tell them you dropped it and see what happens. I mean, you're surprised at that kind of stuff. So awesome. Well, hey, as we start to come in for a landing, couple more questions. I'm gonna let you go. What would be Keith Murley's tip of the week?
Start now. Whatever, whatever, you know, make a change. If you're if you're at that point in your career, your personal life, that you just don't feel that same passion, or you feel a little bland on your day to day, just do something small to get you to that next level. And that could very well just start with a conversation with somebody. If you don't have that somebody, I'm sure they could reach out to you. I'm sure they could reach out to me and just start a conversation. And just that little bit can go a long way.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm learning the older I get, there you exert energy to complain.
Yeah.
You exert energy to be negative, or you exert energy to be positive and to start now, like you said, make a difference right now. So either way, you exert energy. So
Yes.
why not make it energy that's going to be, an end result is going to be a lot more positive. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So here's the one that's always fun. What's something that most people don't know about you, Keith, that you feel comfortable sharing on the air?
I mean, most people, when you look at me, you think Ricky Martin, you think a pure Hispanic, which
Okay,
which
sure.
never happens, is actually not the case. And what blows people away is me being a fluent Spanish speaker. And
Okay.
because I don't look Latin. I look I'm probably reflecting some type of light into the light.
Well,
I
we
don't
haven't
even
had sun in years, so it
Right. I don't
feels
even know
like
if you can see
anyway,
my face. I pictured just this big ball of glow. But
Nothing wrong with that. Wow,
but
that's awesome. Well, and you were in South America, so
yeah,
is that where you learned it?
yeah, in Ecuador. So I was
Okay,
9 when we moved there with my family. Was
nice.
enrolled in public school, and I remember the first day there that no one in the class spoke English. The teacher didn't speak English. I didn't speak Spanish. My dad did, and all he told the teacher was, my son doesn't speak Spanish, so just try to get by. And
Yeah,
it was the most foreign feeling ever, where the teacher's just pointing at the paper and trying to mime and gesture.
yeah, gosh.
But yeah, so
Wow.
I'm very, very fluent.
Wow, cool. Well, good. That's good to know. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So if somebody was, tweaked in their mind and their heart, if something that you said really resonated with them, or maybe they want to learn more about MAAPPEN, or the Center for Good,
Mhm.
what's the best way for people, Keith, to get a hold of you?
I would say connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can search Keith Murley, or my URL is LinkedIn something slash K.
Okay.
Uh, whatever
Yeah.
the
Something that's from a tech guy. Oh my gosh.
right.
This don't Katie, erase that. No, I'm just kidding. That's hilarious.
Yeah, you can find me on there. Drop me a message, and I'm happy to talk about MAAPPEN, happy to talk about the center, and really, especially on the center side, those people who are motivated and want to help participate in the growth, the leadership. That's something that is always very important to me, and I think
Awesome.
there's probably a lot of people out there interested.
And you have centerforgood.org, right?
Yes.
So if people want to learn more about that.
Yeah.
And then MAAPPEN has got the uniquest spelling I've ever heard. It's
Right.
MAAPPEN.
Yes.
So if you're trying to find that, That's the only way it's going to show up in anywhere positive. Because I looked and you end up in some weird places without it. So MAAPPEN. So awesome. Well, Keith, this has been good. Thank you so much for unpacking some of this. It's great to know that there are multiple ways to go from corporate America into, you know, owning your own business. We talked about that. And I love the fact that you then took it one step further and ended in, you know, into this Center for Good to really try and help people, you know, connect that much more. So thank you so much for that. And again, if you're listening, just do yourself a favor, you know, don't just click the button and try and get off onto something else. If this really resonated with you, you know, call Keith, email him, jump on the website, you know, call me, whatever, talk to somebody that you know, and talk about how you can find, you know, some good going on. The Center for Good sounds like a great place to hang out. So again, do yourself a favor and, you know, take heart. If there was something going on in your heart, you know what, just turn it into some action, just like his tip of the week. So again, thanks, Keith, for hanging out with us. And I'm excited to see where both of these ventures are going to take you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Dave. Just the time flew by. So yeah, I really appreciate it that we were able to cover so many topics. And that's why, you know, you wish some of these podcasts were 6 hours long, 8 hours.
Right, yeah.
But
Next week,
right.
tune in. It'll be a 6-hour one.
Like
So.
the 24-hour of Le Mans. We'll just do a 24-hour podcast.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. I was in one of those once. It didn't work out so well. So Keith, thank you so much. And again, look forward to watching both your companies continue to grow.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you, Dave.